Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to be planting 2 Dear Dolores and 2 Big Daddy Hydrangeas from the Southern Living Plant Collection. These are big leaf hydrangeas. Dear Dolores is hardy in zone 5 to 9. Big Daddy is hardy in zone 6 to 9. Actually, the plant's probably hardy in zone 5 to 9. But Dear Dolores is a remontant variety. So in zone 5, sometimes the flower buds that are on them in the wintertime can be damaged. This variety will reset flower buds during the summer, so you'll still guarantee yourself flowers. That's why we list this one for that's why it's listed for zone 5, whereas Big Daddy's gonna be listed for zone 6 to 9, just because if they were damaged in the winter, if you had a severe winter, then you would not get additional flowers. What makes this one significant, and those of you watching this video that live in zone 6 to 9, I would definitely look for this variety. It has the most beautiful foliage of any big leaf hydrangea I've ever seen. Big, beautiful, shiny leaves on it. And then the flower heads get this big. Once they're established, they can be as big as 10, 12 inches across. This is a really, really stunningly beautiful plant. Plant can get big too. Big Daddy can get 6 by 6. Dear Dolores is going to get more like 4 to 5 by 4 to 5, something like that. Maybe slightly bigger than 5 in time, but definitely smaller than Big Daddy. I've got heavy clay soil in my yard. I've already dug the holes. I mixed in some compost with what came out of the hole. I put some of that loose soil back in the bottom of the hole so that when I pull this plant out of the container, and be careful with hydrangeas. Hydrangeas are easy to break. Really all species of hydrangeas are fairly easy to break when they come out of the container initially. If the roots are matted down together really tight, you can break those up a little bit. If they're super, super root bound, you can take a knife from the top to the bottom and cut them like that. This one is not too bad. When I set that down in that hole, I want to make sure it's sticking up about 2 inches above the original grade. So, and I can use my shovel as a measuring tool for that. I can just set my shovel right beside the hole and then see that that root ball is above it. And so, like I say, I've already got this kind of blended together. Here's a piece of my brick that comes out of the holes in my yard, like this. You can see, happens to be wet today, so it's not too bad to break apart. But when that dries in the sun, it becomes like a brick. But that compost will allow water to kind of help that water pass through a little bit, and leaving it up high will prevent this. Will allow the crown of that plant to dry out between waterings. But I'll just put that soil mix back in and then stomp it in and water it in. Well, it's June and you can fertilize now. Just make sure you use an organic fertilizer if you're planting something this late. It really becomes more important than ever during this time of the season to use an organic fertilizer, because the reason for that is organic fertilizers only work by feeding the soil microbes, and the microbes do the work of feeding the plant. Microbes will go to sleep in the fall, and so the fertilizer becomes less effective. So you can't really, it's much harder to damage a plant by fertilizing late with an organic fertilizer. If I fertilize it with a synthetic fertilizer with a lot of nitrogen, it'll just keep pushing that plant right into fall, and potentially your plant has a lot of new growth on it that ends up damaged in the winter. That's the reason for the organics becoming more important as the season progresses. Early in the season, it would matter significantly less because the fertilizer would be used up by the time it got cold anyway. But that's how I do that. I stomp it down well, make sure I didn't cover up anything at the base of this that wasn't covered before. Put my mulch under there. I'm going to water this in really, really well, and then I'll let it dry out between rains and waterings. I'm going to go ahead and put these other 3 in the ground real quick, and then I'll show you the finished product here. So, okay, here they are in the ground. This is Dear Dolores, Big Daddy. That one's All Summer Beauty that was already in the ground. And that other Big Daddy is over there on the other side of it. These are definitely part shade is usually best on these big leaf hydrangeas. The further north you go, maybe up into zone 5, if you were using this Dear Dolores, they could take quite a bit more sun. Down here in the south, it's sometimes hard to find the right spot. If they're in too much sun, they'll wilt badly in the afternoon and they can get beat up during the summer. If you put them in too much shade, they tend to stretch out. I've actually got a Dear Dolores in my backyard that's beautiful, but a little bit stretched out. It's in a little bit too much shade. I may decide to move it here into a little bit more sun. But if you find it's wilting too bad in the afternoon, just dig the thing up and move it into a little bit more shade. You know, a month or two in, that's no problem at all to make that adjustment if you decide that you've got it in a little bit too much sun. Big leaf hydrangeas like this are pretty pest resistant. They don't get a lot of problems. Deer will graze on them, so keep that in mind if you have deer problems. I find these to be extremely salt tolerant, meaning that I see that if I see them in high traffic areas where I know dogs are urinating on them and that kind of thing, it doesn't seem to really bother big leaf hydrangeas all that much. So that's something to keep in mind if you have pets. I don't think they won't damage them. They're also salt tolerant enough to be down in coastal North Carolina. They're everywhere down there. It seems like every house along the coast has big leaf hydrangeas in their yard. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. Be on the lookout for this Dear Dolores and Big Daddy Hydrangeas from the Southern Living Plant Collection. Thanks for watching.